Hello everyone, my name is Madison Hildreth and I'm a junior at Frisco. I'm involved in National Charity League, National Honor Society, Best Buddies, Diamond Darlings, Student Climbing Committee. I'm a varsity cheerleader. I work at Cowboy Up and I enjoy volunteering, working out, traveling, and reading. And then here's a couple pictures so that you can get to know me. The top one is with my friends. That was right before a cheer game. We were running out. And then that's my sister over there. And then at the bottom is my family. I know my dad kind of looks like a ghost. It was just really bright. And my mission statement for ISM is to increase my knowledge of broadcast journalism while also succeeding in the discovery of the multitude of job opportunities that would be available if I was to major in this field. Because right now I'm kind of torn between the sports side of it or just general news, so I'm not really sure which one I really want to focus on. And then why I picked ISM, well, I've always really liked watching the news. From a young age, I've always liked what's going on in the world, whether it's political things that I really didn't even understand or just general news things that are going on. If there was a break-in somewhere or someone got their car stolen, or happy things as well, I've always just liked knowing about it. And I would sometimes find myself asking my friends, oh, did you hear about this? And they're like, no, Madison, that's weird that you're so obsessed with the news. And then I got into acting when I was about 8 years old, so I really liked being on camera and having that connection with people. So then finally, one day I was in 8th grade, I think it was, and we were talking about what we want to be when we're older. And one of my teachers asked me, and I said, oh, I want to be an actress. But that's a really hard industry, and in some cases it's kind of based off of luck and your looks, and if you can do it, it's not always a talent. So I knew I needed to pick something that would allow me to really focus on and take a straight path there, and that's when I came across being a news reporter. And that combined my interests of being on camera and also allowing myself to connect with other people and marketing myself. And then I got involved with school and high school and all of that, and then I started picking my classes, and I decided that ISM was something that I really wanted to do because it could further my career and allow me to start working towards my goal. And some research highlights from the beginning of the year is learning the importance of conducting background research on a specific topic and already having a couple ideas in mind, because when you actually get the topic that you're reporting on and you're looking over your scripts and stuff, it's always good to make 3 little bullet points of things that you know that maybe you don't have written down, just in case the teleprompter goes out randomly. You need to be able to talk a little bit. And then also the ability to use technology. This is so incredibly important, especially in this generation when things are so focused on technology and the use of social media and all of that stuff. You have to be able to work with a computer and editing software as well. And then also being able to make a successful pitch that everyone can relate to. If you have a topic that maybe isn't that interesting or that not everyone can relate to, it's really hard to gain a lot of viewers on that. So you have to make it to where everyone can really somehow be related to it and feel like they're included in that specific topic so that they'll want to watch and see what you have to say about it. And then also not using the word I so much and me so much. When you're reporting, this is so incredibly important. Even if you were on the front line watching everything happen, you don't want to say I saw. You can say this happened, and this happened. Because if you say I saw this and I want to do this or something, it's not going to sound good and it won't sound professional, and not everyone can relate to it. And it also sounds a bit biased as well. And lastly, practicing. This is so incredibly important. Whether it's in front of a mirror or you're practicing by recording yourself, all of it is really going to help. Don't just wing it. That's never a good idea, and that's with anything. It's never good to just wing something. Even reading off of a piece of paper. If you don't have a teleprompter, those are a little bit expensive and you might not want to go buy a huge teleprompter just to practice. You could have someone hold up a piece of paper, write some things down, and you can read off of it just to gain some extra practice. And then my quote is, success can only be achieved when the inspiration for the reward is stronger than the fear of failure. And Herb Cohen said this. And this really applies to all aspects of my life. If I'm scared to do something and I don't want to step outside of my comfort zone, I'm never going to realize if I'm going to be successful in that area. So sometimes you have to branch out a little bit, even if you're nervous, but you never know what you may be able to achieve. And for example, when I went to WFAA the other day, Shelly left me alone and I had to go around and record B-roll, and I was so scared. There were people just staring at me, not knowing what I was doing, and I went into rooms while people were working, and it was just really awkward. But I told myself, if I want to be successful in this field, I'll have to do things that I'm not always comfortable with. And my first interview was with Shelly Slater, but as you know, she's my mentor. I kind of already gave that away. and she's a news reporter and an anchor at WFAA, and she taught me the importance of having thick skin, being friends with everyone, and have the ability to also speak different languages, which I'm not so good at, but I can work on that. And also Hillary Kennedy, who's a TV host and a blogger, and she said how competitive the field is and the importance of being able to stand out amongst everyone else. And then also to create a strong website to a link and a link to a demo, reel, or blog, so that people can go onto your website and kind of look at the things that you've done and have an idea of what level you are at. And then also smaller markets can be good. Smaller markets are actually very good. You can get all of your mess ups and mistakes out of the way and really focus on working your way up to a larger market. And Deborah Ferguson, she was very sweet. She's a news anchor at NBC5, and she said the importance of learning to ad-lib, being aware of things that are going on, staying updated on current events, and staying very curious about everything. And Newey Scruggs, I really liked him because he gave me a different idea of being a reporter, because he's a sportscaster and a news anchor at NBC5. So he didn't really deal so much with the general news. He focused more on sports. And he said, don't be afraid to fail. Learn how to operate all the different equipment. And like I said before, technology and learning how to work with technology is so important. And then also not to take any negative comments personally, because there's going to be people that are constantly going to say negative things about you, but you have to just be able to brush that off your shoulder and focus on improving yourself. And Gina Miller, she works with That Sports Girl Media, which is all online, and she said the importance of looking at both sides of a story, because there is always two sides to a story. And then starting out is very hard, but you have to continue going. It's very, very hard when you first start out. It's not always fun. You're in a small market, not getting paid that much, but eventually you'll be able to work your way up. And then also to keep your composure and stay professional. You may be in a very bad situation, but you have to be able to stay calm on camera, because if you freak out, that's going to drop your ratings a lot, and you might end up on social media acting like a crazy person. And then also having good communication skills, not just on camera, but off camera as well, whenever you're interviewing someone or whatever you may be doing. And then some research that I've required is, like I said before, knowing a little bit about everything, working well with the crew. Hillary Kennedy said this. I really like that, and that's very important. It's always good to be nice to people. You should just be nice to people in general, but also especially the crew. They're the ones that will make you look good, fix your lighting, fix the camera angles. If you're mean to them, they might purposely make you look bad on camera. And then continued research. These are things that I really took a deeper analysis at, was embedded versus objective reporting. And embedded reporting is being really biased, and like I said before, using the word I or me. And objective is giving a global angle at something you're reporting. And then also, when you're creating a pitch, like I said, give the global angle. How can everybody relate, and why should that individual listen to what you're saying if it doesn't apply to them? So make sure to really allow everyone to be included in what you're reporting on. And branding yourself. I chose Dale Hansen as an example. I don't know if any of you guys have seen him report or the things that he has said, but he is very blunt. I'll just say that. He doesn't really care what people think about him, and his way of branding himself is to just be blunt on camera and just saying really whatever crosses his mind. He is not a fan of some people on the Cowboys, and he lets everyone know that. But I was actually at WFAA, and I remember them saying that there's people in New York and stations in New York talking about him, and so he was very successful in the way that he brands himself, because people all over the nation talk about him and just what he says in Dallas and things about the Dallas Cowboys. And also connecting with key players. This is really just saying to get out and talk to professionals like what we do in ISM, and making sure to get good info with them and really market yourself and learn more about them and how they were able to become successful, and pick up little tips of how they did it. And then also, you're always in the public eye. So remember to have a good image and do the right thing, because people will know who you are from seeing you on TV. And if you're doing something bad, they may take a picture or a video. And this really goes for any job. And especially right now, since we're all in high school, we really have to focus on making the right choices. But especially when you're working your way up to becoming a professional, you have to remember that there's always going to be eyes on you. And then knowing a little bit about everything is very important. And just having something in your back pocket if someone randomly asks you on the street, oh, did you hear about this? Be able to talk about it and know a couple things about it. And then my mentor is Shelly Slater, and here's a picture of us. And she's very, very smart, and she's been really helpful. And she taught me about jump cuts, beat reporting, the development of the news, and to face rejections, and then time away from technology equals being more productive. She actually came to my NCL meeting, which is National Charity League, and she said that even just a couple minutes away from your phone will allow you to get so much more work done. So one night I tried it. I turned my phone off at 6 o'clock and then turned it back on at 8. And I got so much homework done. So I highly encourage turning your phone off for a little bit, focusing on what you need to get done, and then reward yourself with being on your phone. Because social media and Twitter and Instagram and all those things, Facebook, it sucks your time away and allows you to just not even focus on what you need to get done. So put your phone away sometimes, turn off your laptop, and work on what you need to get done. And then also practicing. I started recording my final product, and I realized that practice really does make perfect. I was struggling with a lot of different things. I wasn't used to talking on camera, and I saw how hard this job really is. So practice is definitely something that I need to do. In new terms, beat calls, she taught me this too. That's a subject that an individual is specializing in, and also it's important to create your contacts with them. For example, if someone's beat call is the news station or the police station, it's good to kind of contact the headquarters and say, hey, is there any new information I need to know? So you're always on top of it, and you're in front of all the other news stations, being able to know exactly what's going on. If there was a recent break-in somewhere or something happened, you need to be the first person to know. So it's important to kind of contact the police station and know all the people there. And then B-roll is just background video, and this can be played with audio. So sometimes when you see a camera panning the room and you hear a voice in the background, that's B-roll that they've shot. And then a jump cut is going from you to you. For example, if there's a scene where I'm standing right here and the next scene is me staying in a new location, that's a jump cut because it goes me to me. And then a multimedia reporter. This is someone that can gather information, make broadcasts, and then also uses social media to inform the public about what's going on. This is a very important type of reporter to be because you can do everything. You can also deal with the whole editing. You're like a whole crew in one. And then shading the sentence. I didn't really know what this meant when she first said it, so I had to ask her about it. And it basically means to make it more interesting and to add a little bit of detail inside of the sentence in which you're talking about. And then now moving on to my original work. The preparation was a little bit difficult at first because I was doing this with Ari and we didn't really know what exactly we were going to do. At first we talked about making a Twitter account or using social media to really talk about ISM and talk about sports, because she wants to be a sports reporter and I'm also taking a look at that side of the industry. And then we realized that making a Twitter account is a little bit too easy, and that's not really showing off what we've really learned and using our talent, because we're just typing on our keyboards, so that doesn't do much. And then we decided that we wanted to actually make a broadcast and feature Frisco's basketball team, because at that time basketball was the sport that we are in, and we thought it'd be really interesting and everyone would be interested in how the basketball team's doing. And we first started by going to as many games as possible and then staying updated on the scores and seeing which games we were winning, which games we were not winning. And then we chose our favorite game, which ended up being the Centennial game, because we won that one. We didn't really want to cover a game that we lost because that would just be sad. And then we also developed different questions and interviewed 3 of the varsity players to get their ideas on how they thought they did, or if they were seniors, what is it like in their senior year. Then we came up with a script and typed a couple things out. And then we filmed the opening scene in front of a green screen and put the little Frisco background in the back to make it a little more interesting. And then we improvised the closing of the segment, which was definitely a challenge. I wasn't used to just talking and trying to memorize everything and not having a script, but it was also good practice for the real world, because sometimes the teleprompter will go out or I won't have a script and I'll just have to talk. And then we edited the entire segment, from the lighting to the voices to creating B-roll, everything. We put it together in Mr. Burnett's room. And this project was kind of hard because everything was outside of school. It wasn't something that I could sit down in class and do because I didn't have Ari with me, and also I didn't have the software that I needed. And also attending the games, everything was outside of school. So that was the only problem I had with that, but we got it done, so that was good. And this is the highlight right here. You should just be able to click on the link. Hopefully it'll work this time.
This upcoming Tuesday is the Frisco Centennial game at Centennial. There's many teams that seem to do better at home, and Frisco happens to be one of them. They have a 5-1 record at home. They won 5, lost 1. Away, they've won 4 and lost 4. This is going to be a very interesting game, considering in-state Centennial's ranked 77 and Frisco's 84. It's going to be very close and also determine who's going to do best in playoffs and potentially move on to the next round. It's only the second half, and we are already looking at a very competitive game, with the score being neck and neck. With both teams having close to an equal amount of talent and being very close in the state rankings, it was already predicted to be an action-filled game. Although the game does not determine who will move on to playoffs, it will definitely be a very beneficial win. For Frisco, this is some good preparation for the Heritage game next week. We are looking at a very competitive and rough team. Same with the Titans. They managed to beat Frisco last year. Stay tuned to find out who will finish the game off the win. How many years have you been on varsity?
3 years.
And how has the team progressed?
We've gotten a lot closer over the years because whenever I started out, there were a lot of seniors already, and so after they left, the younger guys got a lot closer, and it really shows on the court.
And how has your senior year been on varsity?
I'm loving it. We're really close with all the other players, and just having a lot of fun with it.
Your senior year will be like basketball.
I just hope to have a bigger part of the team and be a leader to the younger guys. Yeah, we should have a pretty good year next year.
The Frisco Raccoons pulled through with a win against the Centennial Titans tonight at Centennial. The ending score was 39-30. With this win, Frisco has upgraded their rankings to 16 wins and 5 losses. This Friday, we face Heritage High School. They are ranked 76 in the state, and we still stand at 84. This will be another close game, so come out and watch.
All right, so that was just an idea of what we did. No, it wasn't a completely professional broadcast, but we put it together by ourselves. So we did face a couple challenges and complications, but we were able to overcome them. And then also, if you saw the part where we were actually cut out of the scene, or I was, because I was the one doing the reporting, we really wanted to focus in on the basketball players. That's why I wasn't in it. And so we wanted to really see what they had to say, and that was all improvised. They came up with their own questions. We asked them on the spot. We kind of gave them a heads up about what the subject was. We told them it was basketball, but we just kind of asked the questions, and they had a really good answer, especially TJ. He was very professional in this answer. And then the first part of the segment and the last part where Ari was talking, we had scripts for that, but everything else we just did off the top of our head. And then what I've acquired from both my mentor visits and then also after working on my original work, the first one is I've become a lot more confident when talking to professionals. Before I was very nervous, and like I said, when Shelly left me alone in WFAA and I had to go talk to people and make my own B-roll, I was so incredibly nervous, and there were people asking me what I was doing. Some people just gave me awkward looks, but for the most part it was really scary, but I was able to talk to them and really step outside my comfort zone, so now I feel a lot more confident when I'm going up to people I don't know, and I can go ask them questions and I'm not as scared. And then my interest in this career has increased so much because now there's all these different doors and opportunities that are opened, and I want to learn more about them. And then I'm aware of the reality. Most people think that this is a really easy job. You just sit in front of a desk and you talk and you read something, but it's not like that at all. And it's actually a lot more challenging than people think it is. And there's also so many more people that go into producing the news. There's a whole entire crew. There's hundreds of people that work really hard, and no one really gives them enough credit. And so I want people to see that, and that's also why I decided to give a tour of Channel 8 for my final product, and I will show you and tell you guys more about that in a few minutes. But like I said, I've become a lot more aware of what goes on behind the scenes. And then also I've become more organized, and I realized how important it is to be organized in this career and then have a sense of professionalism, responsibility, and be self-motivated. You have to be self-motivated. There's so much work that goes into this. This really is not just a job, it's a lifestyle. And so you have to be able to put in a lot of work and motivate yourself to put in the work that's required. And then like I said previously, it takes so much practice to become a master and become a professional at this. so I will continue to practice. And then the time investment is absolutely crazy. There's very early mornings. People think that they just show up for, say, the 6 o'clock news, but no, they actually come in at 4 o'clock or even earlier. And they have to read over their scripts and get ready, do their hair, do their makeup, do everything, prepare to be on the news. So very early. And then the late nights. People think if they have a segment at 10 o'clock that they just leave as soon as it's over. But no, they have to get ready for the next day. They have to go over what they did well, what they didn't do well, so they could be there till 12 o'clock. Now these are just a couple ideas. Some get there earlier, some stay later, but this is just an idea of how extreme those days can be. And at first, when you first start out, there's very bad hours. You get the early mornings, you get the late nights, not so much the afternoons. And you don't get a lot of money at all. And then the small markets in the beginning, they aren't very fun. You may end up in a random city and have to live somewhere in the middle of nowhere. And so it's not always fun, but you have to start somewhere. And like Shelly said, you might have a really bad relationship and social life at the beginning. You might not be able to date anyone for 2 years or have a lot of friends for 2 years and have that social life, but eventually you will be able to, and it's worth it because you have to start somewhere and it's not always fun in the beginning, but that's okay. And then for my final product, I decided to give the audience a tour of WFAA because like I said, a lot of people don't know what goes on behind the scenes. It's so much harder than it looks. It takes so much practice to be able to get up there and report the news. There could be something crazy going on the side and you just have to completely avoid it and act like nothing's happening. If there's construction going on and you're trying to listen to people in your earpiece, it can definitely be a challenge. You have to be able to not get nervous on camera and not stumble over your words, and that's hard. It's not as easy as it looks. And also the amount of work that goes into it. Not everyone understands that. They think they just sit there, record it once, and it's done. But no, there's editing, there's producers that create the news, there's so much. And then, like I said, it's more than a reporter standing there. And sometimes the reporters are completely improvising and ad-libbing, and it doesn't even look like they are. It looks like they're reading off something, but that's just them and how much talent they've acquired over the years to where they're able to just talk and make it look completely natural. And then editors and producers, photographers, and people that deal with audio. That's just a couple of the jobs that are behind the scenes. And I never really even thought about that, honestly, but until I actually went to WFAA and saw what they did, that's when I realized really how much work goes into it and what these people do. For example, there's a producer that sits in the chair in the control room, and they are actually talking to the reporters and the anchors that are over a mile away at the studio. So they're over here at the newsroom, and the reporters and anchors are across the way at the studio, and the producer is actually sitting there talking to them saying, do this, do that, move this screen down, or say this, add this to what you're saying. So it's really interesting to see how they react, and even though they're really far away. And then, as I've said, this job is not just an occupation, it's a lifestyle. It's very busy, and it can also be very stressful. The schedule is very hard, so sometimes it can be hard to balance your family life and your social life with your work life, but it's something that you have to just deal with, and eventually you'll be able to work it out. But in the beginning, it's not easy at all. And some of my goals for the future are to continue to practice in this field of study and become more professional at what I do, and then also make more connections that will benefit me in both the present and in the future. And talking to people at WFAA is definitely a way that I can really make those connections. And then also to get accepted into either UCLA, UT, or Mizzou. And those schools have really good broadcast journalism programs, which is why I want to hopefully get accepted into all three and then be able to choose which one I actually want to go to. And then eventually work my way up to becoming a national anchor. And then also, I don't have my original or my final product done yet, but I'll just tell you guys a little bit about it and what I plan to do. And I'm starting by giving a tour, and I'll just open it up, and then I'm doing a whole walking tour of both the newsroom and also the studio. And it starts off at the assignment desk. And for those of you who don't know what the assignment desk is, it's this huge desk that has TVs, and it has police monitors and scanners and a whole map of Texas and all the counties in Texas, which is really neat. I didn't know how many counties there really are in Texas. But the people that work there are required to listen into what's going on. And for example, if they hear something that happened, if there's a fire or there's a big crash, they have to decide whether or not they want to send people out. If they think it is something that is worth getting the reporters and the cameramen out for, they will shout it, and then everything turns into chaos. The reporters have to figure out which one wants to go to the scene, the cameraman has to get ready, and they have to go shoot. But if it's something that they feel like doesn't require that much attention, they don't really blow it off, but they just kind of disregard it and move on to the next thing. And sometimes, as Shelly has said, they've made the mistake by not going to the scene. They say, oh, it's not that big of a fire, or it's not that big of an issue, but it actually ends up being something that's huge and may even gain national attention, and that's when they really have to take their job seriously and put a lot of thinking into it. And if they feel like it's something that is very important, then they have to get everyone together and get them ready to go out. And then after the assignment desk, we moved over to the producer pod, and this is where all the producers and editors work, and they sit there at a computer staring at that little screen and tiny little text box of things that say which reporter is doing what, and then what they're covering. And then it's not always just the writing that's the hard part, it's deciding what's really going to be the topic that they're going to talk about, what's going to catch people's attention. So they're constantly thinking and writing and typing and doing research and figuring out who would be best for which topic. So they work very, very hard. And one lady that we talked to, she said that the night before she was there until 12 o'clock p.m. working. So they have bad hours too. It's not just the news reporters and news anchors that are there for a while. It's really everyone. And then after the producer pod, we moved over to the, let me think, which one was it? We moved over to the actual reporters, and we went and asked them about reporting and things that they have to do and what challenges they face. And basically every single reporter and anchor that I talked to said their biggest challenge was coming up with 3 things to report on. So each day they have to think of 3 topics and go and have a little meeting, and they say their topics that they want to talk about or things that they might want to put a segment together on. And they said it's so incredibly hard to think of something that another news station hasn't already covered or something that they haven't already covered. So when the whole Ebola epidemic happened and they went over and had their meeting about it, obviously Ebola was a topic that everyone was talking about, but there wasn't that much going on. So then they had to dig a little bit deeper, look at the detail, and go into exactly who was involved or maybe what could come out of this, and develop a topic that not other news stations were really talking about, and that was really hard for them. And then also when there was 4 cows that were being born, that was a big topic. A lot of people didn't really find that much interest in it, but they were having to really figure out how everyone would be able to relate to it. And sometimes it's hard to think about a cow and how could people that aren't even involved in that, how could they really have a connection to that? That's kind of a strange topic, but they had to think of things in ways that people could actually relate to it. And then after we talked to the reporters, we went over to the control room, and that's where I said the producer sits and the editor sits and the person dealing with audio sits. And then they have a bunch of cameras, and they have the traffic cams, they have the tower cam, so they're able to monitor everything that's going on. And they're constantly, I feel like, under a lot of stress. I walked in there and they're really focused, and the editor was just sitting there and he was talking, and the producer was also talking to the people in the other room, and they were saying, fix his TV screen. And Ron Corning was the one reporting at that time, and they said, Ron looks a little bit off, make sure the TV screen's lifted up, and then you'd see someone go behind the scenes and lift the TV up. So it was really neat seeing them talk to each other and the reaction that the people would have. And they're over a mile away, but it was funny how they were able to still communicate. And then the person working on the audio was just dealing with the computer, and they were just raising things and lowering things to fix the audio. And then, does anyone have any questions about anything? All right, well, that's the end. I hope you will learn something new. And also, when my final product does come out, I hope you see the importance of giving the people recognition behind the scenes. The crew does work extremely hard, and that's what I really want to show, that they have the bad hours too. And the people in the producer pod, they're constantly working. The people in the control room, even though they're behind the scenes, wearing headphones and talking into a microphone, it's a really hard job, and they don't get enough credit, but they're constantly working, and it really isn't just a job for them, it's a lifestyle as well, because they have to know what's going on too. So I hope everyone understands that, and the next time you're watching the news, to kind of have an idea of what's going on behind the scenes. So it'll be very neat, and hopefully you'll have a different view on the news. So thank you.